I'm Craig Caswell with Digital Control Incorporated, Regional Field Service Manager. I want to introduce you to the F5 fluid pressure transmitter, dual frequency. It's designated the F5 DP 1912 in this case. We have an F5 DP 1912 and an F5 DP 12 1.3. In this case, I'm going to power this transmitter up in the high frequency 19 kilohertz. And you can tell it's a fluid pressure by the holes on the end cap here. This is where we allow the fluid pressure in. It's a good indicator that you do have a fluid pressure transmitter, and then of course it says F5 DP on the battery case, the P designating the pressure capability. So in this case I've got the batteries in. I'm going to attach the battery cap, powering up the transmitter, pointing up with the battery compartment down. You'll see on the menu option of the F5 here in just a moment that powering it up in this direction gives you the higher frequency. If I was to remove the battery cap and power it up in this way, you would get the lower frequency. So we've got the transmitter powered up in the high frequency mode now, and we're ready to show you the function of the locator, and we'll step over to that. Showing the FPT fluid pressure transmitter on the screen of the F5. Here we see the menu option of an F5 where we've selected the basic function of a 19.2 kilohertz without fluid pressure. Every F5 sold from day one of the F5 introduction has this option of F5 19.2 as a dual frequency option. Some of the earlier transmitters, locator systems, do not have the fluid pressure, so I wanted to show you that even if you own a fluid pressure transmitter, our newest technology, it will work perfectly fine with the older F5s that do not have fluid pressure. And as you'll see here, there is no indication of the fluid pressure. But since I do have the newer locator system, I do have the option to toggle down to my main menu, toggle over to my transmitter selection window, select transmitter selection, and now here is the type of menu you'll see on the newer 2012 and later versions F5, where we have our standard F5 dual frequencies, and then we also now make the option for the fluid pressure transmitter F5. And you'll notice here that I have selected F5 19.2 currently, which that's why I did not have pressure. I'm going to go down and select the fluid pressure transmitter. As we showed earlier in the film, I'm using a F5 1912. We do have the option for a 12 1.3 that is typically used for rebar situations. But since we're using the 1912, we'll select it. As I showed you earlier as well, I powered up the 1912 transmitter by having the battery compartment down. That gives me pointing the top of the transmitter up. Up is for high frequency. If I had powered it up pointing down, down would have been low frequency. In this case, I'm going to select the 1912. When I do that, pay attention here on your menu selection that shows your transmitter. I'm currently on 19.2 without the fluid pressure. Selecting it adds the P. Now you know that you've selected the pressure capability. This brings up additional options on your locate screen to show the fluid pressure. So to begin monitoring that fluid pressure transmitter that we powered up, we're just going to go ahead and select the locate mode here. I'm just going to click the bottom button. The first question that comes up when you're using the fluid pressure transmitter is basically asking you, do you want to record fluid pressure over time? And that's indicated, this symbol here is very important. And you'll see later that there's an additional symbol that is close to this, but this one shows the fluid pressure transmitter and the DigiTrak. This is the same mode we'd use for either one to record fluid pressure. If on this bore I was interested in only recording fluid pressure and I was not going to log well drill the depths and the pitches, I would want to power this mode up. And I could basically go to create a new job number 4 or append to a job that I'd already started. In this case, I'm going to start a new job, move back, toggle back over to the left, select it with the bottom button. And now the F5, just by toggling that option with this indicator here, is recording fluid pressure right now and will continue until I turn the F5 off or select stop. With this option, I'm going to record fluid pressure, and I don't even necessarily need to be above the head. I can record the pressure off to the side, above it, and it's going to create a graph that looks like this. This is your standard fluid pressure graph, very similar to what we record on the DigiTrak as well. But it's hundreds of data points recorded. We record one data point every 4 seconds and creates thousands of data points. This particular graph has 4,000 data points on it, which was basically a 5-hour bore. If I printed out all this data, I would have over 20 pages of data points, but it does show a very detailed graph of the fluid pressure. Now, a second option is, if I want to record the fluid pressure and get all this detail, but I also want to record the log well drilling with the depth and the pitch, I'd basically hold my button down and use the standard method for starting LWD. Hold my button down as if I'm taking a depth, toggle to the right, and now as you'll see on this symbol, this is the standard LWD. It's a cassette tape icon that shows I'm going to record my LWD. Many of you have used LWD, but possibly not with fluid pressure. In this case, because I've got fluid pressure selected, not only am I going to be recording depth and pitch, but it's automatically going to start recording fluid pressure as well. So in this case, rather than starting a new job number 4, I'm going to go in and append to an existing job. I'm going to select LWD job number 3. On the previous menu, the jobs were listed as PT job 1, 2, and 3. PT standing for pressure tension. These are the LWD log jobs. I'm going to select the job number 3 by clicking the button. In this case, I'm not ready to record a rod, so I'm going to toggle down over to exit just to go to my locate screen. And now the F5 is recording fluid pressure and it's prepared to record my logs. With this selection, I'm actually creating this type of graph that will be downloaded, where I will get my profile chart showing my pitch readings, my topology based on depth, and now instead of getting thousands of points of fluid pressure on a time-based graph, it's actually going to break down and give me my average pressure readings over each rod. So if one rod took, let's say for example this rod took 20 minutes, it's going to take 20 minutes of fluid pressure data and include it in this graph. The green part of the line would be showing my average pressure during that rod. The blue would be my high average, which basically takes out some of the lower dead data. If I'm sitting idle, it'll filter out some of the idle pressures, and that's why it's showing a little bit higher pressure. And in this case, the yellow would be my highest pressure during the rod. I might have been one reading during that 4 seconds of 59 psi in this case, but that's the data that's being recorded automatically on the LWD. So there's 2 types of graphing you're doing. One is indicated here that I'm actually recording pressure over time, and the other one is done as I log a rod and pitch. So if I'm ready to start recording a depth on a rod, I would toggle over, click it, click my bottom button for data log, and it put a point break in there as to that was the end of a rod, and it would know then to average that pressure over that last few minutes there. The other thing that's unique to the fluid pressure transmitter when you're running data log is when I pull my toggle down to go to my main menu, and in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the fluid pressure recording feature that's recording it all the time. I don't want the time graph in this case, but I still want the pressure recorded on the LWD, and that will be automatic because I will not turn that off. So by toggling down, I'm going to go to my main menu, and here I have the option of pausing or stopping. Since I want to continue logging LWD, my depth, pitch, and fluid pressure, as the graph is shown to the right here, I'm just going to pause this job. Now it's asking me, do I want to pause or stop the fluid pressure timed graph? In this case, I want to stop it and close that job. So I toggle over to stop, click the bottom button. Now by doing that, when I click on locate now, it's still going to ask me every time I go to locate with a fluid pressure, the first question coming up is, do I want to start the time-based graph? I've decided that I no longer want to record that data because I'm already getting it as an average on my LWD. So I'm going to select no in this case, exit to locate by clicking the bottom button. And now it's back onto my locate screen. And because I left the LWD running, it's still recording fluid pressure for the graph you see here to the right. So again, it's every time I stop, hold my button in to take a depth, toggle to the right, record a rod. In this case, I'm showing job number 3, rod number 5. I'm going to record a full rod with a depth of 1 foot 4 inch. I've recorded it. When I download it, it'll actually show a point that I've changed a rod and break up the pressure so that it fits into that particular rod. Also notice now that the blue tape measure has disappeared from my scheme because I'm now not recording that other graph, as you'll see here. If I do not have the blue tape indicator, I'm no longer recording this data. So that's how you can control which graph. One other thing, when you get ready to, again, I'm going to go to my main menu and it'll always ask me if I'm done with my bore, I can close the job. And then one last thing I want to show you is when you go to download the data, when you're using a fluid pressure transmitter, you've got a new indicator for data log. This is the standard data log that you would be used to on previous F5s. And with this icon, if I want to download an LWD job with this icon, I will be downloading this data. These are the L jobs, L job 1, L job 2, L job 3. When I'm ready to record, and they are indicated by this DL5 indicator. When you download them on your computer, you will see the DL5 that stands for data log 5. If I want to download my pressures over the time graph, I'm going to toggle down, select it, and now it's showing me my bores that I can record that are the time-based graphs. And here you'll see that the sample file would be a .tt5, or the extension would be a TT5 extension, and you can record that data. Just to show it real quick, so here's where I can go in and pick my pressure tension job number 4. So again, the point of this video was to show you the differences between the pressure tension recordings, which are the time-based graphs, as you see here in the bottom right, or the standard LWD, which also records your fluid pressure. Hopefully this will make the experience with the F5 and the fluid pressure transmitter a little easier. Thank you.